Third time lucky, guys. We actually have something to talk about. Well, kind of did last week with the players and everything, so this podcast isn't probably going to be as long, although if I'm going to waffle on all the time, then who knows. But yeah, it's been a pretty busy week as far as Sunderland are concerned. We've had Defoe leave. We're not going to probably go into that too much, by the way. Well, I'll just say that on the record because we mentioned it in the previous two podcasts, so just go and listen to the views on them if you want to hear about it. All I will say is good luck to Defoe at Bournemouth and hope he does really well. And Borini, obviously, we'll probably mention a bit later on. And the two big things, the takeover hasn't happened, and we've finally got a manager, got Simon Grayson. So, Ben and Peter with me again. And how are you both doing? You all right?
Yeah, all good, yeah. Yeah, better than last week, definitely.
Maybe because now we actually have somewhere to go off. We actually have a direction it looks like we might finally go in. God, throat's acting dodgy again. Anyway, so let's jump in. So we won't waste 4 minutes like we did last week before we actually got onto the main topic. So let's just jump right into it now. So what do you two think about what's happened? It's been a pretty hectic week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I think everyone knows Simon Grayson wasn't my first choice. Obviously, I'm the same as you, Mike. I wouldn't minded McInnes or Monk, etc. But no, I've liked every single thing Grayson said in his interviews. I like his philosophies. I like his ideas. I like what he wants from this football club. What he wants out of his teams. So yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give him a chance, as should every other Sunderland supporter. And who knows, hope he can get us back to the Premier League.
Fingers crossed. Mind you, again, he went all Louis van Gaal there, guys. Philosophy. That was my horrible impersonation attempt at a Dutch accent, so just ignore that.
That was terrible, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Good moral support there. Anyways, Ben, what do you think? Obviously about the events that's happened since we last recorded.
I mean, we needed all this to happen very quickly before the start of the season, as it's, how long before the start of the season is it now? Around 4 weeks.
Something like that. It's exactly a month tomorrow, I think.
Yeah. Based on Grayson, I think the Sunderland fans have just got to get behind him. Again, he's probably come into a bit of a sticky situation with the owner and the takeover not going through. But yeah, I mean, he's got all the right credentials to take us forward, based on his, last 2 seasons in the Championship with a pretty weak Preston squad, finishing above some pretty decent sides. So yeah, I'm confident with Grayson there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously what he did with Preston, and I think that's a good thing to jump into because, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. Again, if any Preston fans are watching this, I don't mean to offend them, but to some extent, I'd like to think that he's probably overachieved a bit with Preston. Because they're a team. I don't know how big Preston are as a club, so this is probably poor knowledge on my part. But they seem to me to be a club that would probably hover between League One and the Championship, or be mid-table Championship at highest. Obviously, they'll have ambitions to get the Premier League, because every club in the Championship should have that ambition to an extent. But I'm just going to try and have a look now to sort of be half resourced and look at some of the research that he's done. But I was going to say, Pete, you mentioned earlier that Grayson wouldn't have been your first choice originally. Obviously, I know you're going to get behind him now. Was there any reason for that he wasn't your first choice? Because you were almost, I wouldn't go as far as say adamant, because that probably isn't fair to you, but you weren't keen on the idea of him. Was there any particular reason for that, and has that changed at all since he's appointed?
I think it's changed because it just got to the point where I was like, well, we need a manager now, so let's just bring someone in and let's just get behind them. Originally, probably wasn't my top choice because there was other managers that we were linked with at the time that I would have rather have had. I didn't know if Grayson had done enough in the game with big teams, if you like, to warrant the move to Sunderland in terms of, yes, he's been at Leeds or a big club, but I mean he's been at Preston and Huddersfield, but he hasn't exactly been involved in a promotion push in the Championship. So that's what I wasn't keen on. But at the same time, he's probably never had players. I was going to say, if his players of our quality, obviously we'll get to that. He'll probably bring players in of quality. He's never had a club as successful as Sunderland in comparison with other clubs to manage. If that makes sense, I think he'll do all right. And like I say, I've liked everything he said. He's positive, which is obviously a lot more than what the last manager was.
It doesn't take much that, but I know what you mean.
Seems to have. I get the impression his teams play with togetherness and passion, and that's all the Sunderland fan wants to see from their team. So hopefully his move there pays off, and hopefully he does well.
Well, I mean, I know you mentioned the fact that Grayson. I mean, me and Pete have already debated this countless times off air. But the only thing I would counter that with is saying that Grayson's never been involved in a promotion push is that neither is McInnes in the Championship, and I think, although I was a bit gutted to an extent when McInnes' turn were down. I do think he hasn't, he has less experience in the Championship than what Grayson does. But I mean, Grayson sort of took Preston. I mean, a lot of people were saying that he's took Preston from the brinks of League One to mid-table Championship quite comfortably. So you got to bear that in mind. And I think you mentioned Grayson will have more money and better players to work with here, I think, than what he had at Preston. And the general consensus among Preston fans is that they are gutted that he's gone. So that I don't know what you think, Ben, but I think that can only be a positive if they're gutted that he's left. More than
No, I
not.
think of course it's only a positive. It's kind of the same situation we had with Allardyce, where we've then went and poached a manager who that club really needed, before the season. But yeah, it can only be a positive, and I think it's great. I think we're in a better position now with Grayson than we would have been with McInnes. He's obviously done well in the Championship, like we said. McInnes didn't really have the best of times at Bristol City. And what we've got to think of is this is Grayson's best chance to be a Premier League manager.
True.
So his motivation levels are going to be through the roof to get us promoted. He'll see this as a brilliant opportunity.
So he should. I'm not, I mean, everyone knows I've bigged up Sunderland in the past loads of times, but I just think we are a bigger club than what a lot of people give credit for. We're certainly, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the league. Not by a distance, mind, because there are big clubs in this division, but I think we are definitely. We've certainly got the biggest stadium and fan base, following, etc. Well, based on my knowledge, I've probably got that bias because I'm a Sunderland fan, but at the same time, you're right. I think this is. The fact that Grayson's got the motivation to try and be a Premier League manager, this is going to be by far his best chance in his career to sort of become a Premier League manager. And I think one thing that, and let's see if you two agree on this, one big thing that people have said on Twitter, which even though I was a bit advocate of Moyes last year, one big thing is that in the tone of the way both of them speak and the way they say things, Moyes sounded like he was doing us a favour, or he thought he was doing us a favour rather by being here. Some favour if he gets us relegated. But Grayson comes here and he sounds like he's relishing the challenge to be here. But the good one thing that's important for me is Grayson knows the well, I'd like to hope he knows the financial situation going into taking the job, but yet he's determined, but he still wants to take up the challenge. Whereas everybody else, understandably, don't get us wrong, but shied away from the challenge just because there was no money. Although at the same time, you could argue that now takeover talks were definitely off, and whereas the other managers, there wasn't any. We couldn't give any assurances if they were going to be here.
Put it this way: it's the first time I've been excited for the Championship season since we got relegated. I'm genuinely looking forward to it now, and that'll only increase when the signings start coming through the door. I mean, I've liked everything he said. I think he's been absolutely spot on. Even if he wasn't my top choice, I think everything he said spot on. And honestly, if he does do well, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know if that's just the new manager excitement.
Yeah, the new manager buzz.
Yeah, it might just be that, or it might. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's early days, but I think it could be a good fit based on. He seems to understand the club. He touched upon it's a working class area, and he wants hard-working players as well to go with it, a team to be proud of. Everyone's just got to give him a chance, and I hope he does the business for us.
Fingers crossed. Like the only thing that I am slightly skeptical of is, given the positive things that he said, which don't get me wrong, I love the fact he said positive. One of the big things I loved is that he said that Sunderland fans, or Sunderland rather, club like Sunderland, love a player. I think it was something along the lines of they love a player who makes a 50-yard run or makes a tackle or something like that. But he has said all these positive things. But I like the fact he said that he wants players who are coming for the right reasons, as opposed to the wrong ones, which is just money, which pretty much is money. But one thing that does slightly concern me is he's saying all these positive things, but is that not the new manager effect of him trying to say these things? Is he actually going to be able to deliver on them? But I guess that can only be proved through time. I don't know what you two. I don't know if you two think. I don't know if you two agree, or it's just me overthinking. Probably the latter.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the proof's going to be in the pudding, isn't it? We're going to have to wait till maybe midway through the season to judge him on that. I don't think he can do anything until obviously we kick off. He can only say the right things now.
That's true. I suppose you got to start somewhere. So I was just looking at I was looking on the internet, and there was a paragraph that said Grayson was named new manager of newly relegated EFL Championship club Sunderland. It just kind of sort of funny instead of saying Premier League club, it was EFL Championship club. Right. What I will quickly go through is I'll look through his managerial statistics. Bear in mind I'm on Wikipedia, guys, so this isn't exactly the most It's not Tom hasn't got the reputation of the most reliable of sources, but it's the quickest work I get. Some managerial statistics. So I'll go through the record and see what you two think of this. So we started off with Blackpool. So this is managerial statistics. Let me just quickly check how many clubs he's actually managed.
He's got every manager. He's got every team promoted that he's been at, hasn't he? I know that.
Well, hopefully that continues with Sunderland, as long as we don't get relegated to League One. Right, Blackpool. So obviously started off 10th of November 2005, and he was there. Oh, Christ, right, he was there for over 3 years until 23rd of December 2008. He played. It was 163 games he managed. He won 60, drew 51, lost 52. His win percentage was 36.8%. So that's the first. Let me just see if hang on. Right, the way this ended, the way Grayson's position at Blackpool ended, was apparently he was linked with the post at Leeds United. Following as when Gary McAllister in December 2008 got sacked. Hang on, let's see. His resignation. I think apparently he resigned from Blackpool, went to Leeds, but apparently there was a compensation fee or something. I don't know. It looks quite complicated from what I'm reading. So that's the first of it. The second is of Leeds. Now, again, he was here again for over 3 years, actually, so this is starting to be a pattern here. 23rd of December 2008, took over at Leeds and left Leeds at 1st of February 2012. Again, 169 games managed, 84 wins, 40 draws and 45 losses, 49.7% win ratio. How did his time at Leeds come to an end? Dismissed by Leeds for lack of results Clee was getting. Blah, 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 blah. Club statement. Oh, okay then. And then Leeds to Huddersfield. I'll tell you what, that's a bit of a trek because I know they don't like each other. Huddersfield, 20th of February 2012 to 24th of January 2013. 49 games managed, 17 wins, 15 draws, 17 losses, 34.7% win ratio. Let me guess, was he sacked? Yep, dismissed by Huddersfield. It is quite concerning there that those two he did get sacked from, but I'll mention the last one and see if you can get your thoughts on it. Preston, so this is the big one. 18th of February 2013 to 29th of June 2017, obviously. So pretty much almost 4.5 years. 235 games managed, 104 wins, 74 draws, 57 losses, 44.3% win ratio. And obviously we know what's happened there. He took them from the brink of League One. So he's managed. I think he had 2 years in the 12 months later. So he had his first year. No, sorry, 2 years in the Championship now. So he's done all right. And his overall win record, overall ratios, 616 games managed, 265 wins, 180 draws, 171 losses, a 43% win ratio. Thoughts on that? I know I waffled on a bit there.
I think when the clubs he's been sacked at, I think football's an unforgiving sport, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Like what modern day managers tend to keep their job now when they go on a bad run of form. Do you know what I mean? I know that was a couple of years ago, but they don't really get an opportunity. Obviously these days they get sacked for anything. As Claude Puel's just found out with Southampton, you know what I mean? A cup final and finishing 8th, he's got sacked. Unless he walked, I'm sure he got sacked. But
I will quickly point out for Puel, to be fair, I did look at the league table and Southampton only finished like 6 points above 17th. So like 8th to 17th was a 6-point difference. But I know what you mean. Like on paper for them, it's a good year.
But this is probably once Grayson brings in his own players, I like to think they'll be improved good signings. I'd like to think this will be the best team by a long shot that he's worked with out of the 5 teams he's managed, or 6 teams, whatever it is. So no, I think you can't really judge him on his past now based on the fact I think he's going to have a lot more to work with at his disposal in comparison to the club he's been at.
Yeah, I think you said to me off air at one point that even with the debt we're in, we should still be able to offer Grayson more money than Preston without debt, which is something. But I mean that win ratio. I mean, to be fair, if he has had a couple of years in the Championship, Preston. In fact, I'm going to try and have a look to see where Preston finished in exactly the last 2 seasons. I know last year I think they finished somewhere around about 11th, but I'm going to try and have a look at this and just see what their final position was in the tables and whatnot. But anyway, go on, Ben. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the win ratios that I've just highlighted?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done really well with Preston, to be honest, on what must be a very low budget there, and being promoted from League One into a very tough league. But something else to add, he's actually worked at teams who have had very, turmoilistic backgrounds within Leeds and Blackpool, where the board hasn't always supported the manager. So that's always a good sign to see that he's done all right with them teams. Coming to us where we're in a pretty similar situation.
True. I think definitely the expectation there. Yeah, sorry, definitely the expectation obviously at Sunderland will be, well, I wouldn't go as far as say the fans definitively expect to go back up given what's happened with the current situation, but a club like Sunderland should be, well, without sounding like we have a God-given right to, we should be aiming to come straight back up at the first attempt. We should be, as a club, we should be able to attract the best players in this league, or certainly players that will get us into the top 6 at least. But obviously that's easier said than done. I do like what you say though, that he's done all right at some clubs that are pretty turbulent clubs actually, clubs that certainly don't have any what's the word? Don't have any stability really.
Structure, stability, yeah.
Yeah, structure. Yeah, structure is a better word actually. No structure to them whatsoever. So Sunderland pretty much fit in right well with that with that statistic. Although obviously we probably have a bit more of a better chairman, I'd like to think, than a lot of them. Yeah, I'm just looking at the tables. He finished 11th both the previous 2 championship seasons with Preston. In 15-16, he finished with 62 points in 11th, 22 points above the relegation zone. And he actually only finished like 12 points off the playoffs in his first year in the championship, so that's not too bad. Second year, he finished quite a fair bit adrift of the playoffs rather. But once this wants to work, I shall get the table up for you. Aha, here we go. So he finished 11th again, 62 points again. Finished with a positive goal difference actually. Although the gap between them and the relegation zone was a bit closer, 11 points, and he finished 18 points off the playoffs. But again, bear in mind, Fulham had a good run last season. Newcastle and Brighton obviously were going to be there, so Newcastle were always going to go up. Unfortunately, you got Norwich above you as well. So I don't know. I think it does give me a bit more hope and optimism there. But like you said, that he should have a bigger budget to work with here. He must surely have a bigger budget to work with than what he would have done at the other clubs, wouldn't he? Or you'd like to think. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, he must have a bigger budget at Sunderland. No matter how bad our budget must be, it's got to be bigger than what he's had in the past. I'd be surprised if it's not. I'd actually be worried if it's not.
Same.
Well, apparently, according to, I don't know if it's the Daily Mail.
Well, there you go. But go on. I'll let you finish.
It might not have been. I can't remember what paper it was, but I'm sure we've got 20 million to spend. But before I seen that, whatever day that was, the night before that, someone was saying we only had 6 million to spend. I mean,
yeah, I saw that actually. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, is 20 million enough? Well, based on the positions, I think we need to say probably not. No, but like you said, that'd probably be a couple of loan players and free agents, like you said. So
to be fair though, it depends how you use that 20 million, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going off the assumption that we have 20 million to spend, it depends on how you use it. It depends on what happens. I mean, the area that we need. I mean, we need strengthening all. Well, actually, midfield, I think we're okay. Central midfield, maybe could do with like a number 10 role. But to me, Kasri could be that. So if you had Kasri, well, I've already said before, I'm a big advocate of Kasri trying to stay, really. But if you're gonna have, but anywhere, the position we need strengthening more than anywhere is up front because we've lost Defoe for free. Everyone knows how I feel about that right now. But you've got Borini, who's now got, even though Borini probably technically wasn't a striker because he couldn't score goals. You need goal scorers. If we don't get a goal scorer that will get at least 15 to 20 goals, in fact, no, screw it, more than 20 goals a season, then we definitely aren't going up.
Yeah. Now we like we touched upon, we need a goal scorer. We need centre backs and we need wingers. We need a lot, but we've got a manager in now, so hopefully we'll see some movement this week.
Yeah, well, before we go on to the takeover talk, guys, one thing I will mention then is we've been heavily linked, and if you're a Sunderland fan, it's pretty hard not to notice this. We've been heavily linked with Aidan McGeady. So I'm just typing in now, having a look to see if there's anything, but there probably hasn't been anything yet. I don't think there was a Twitter account called @4thOfficial, I think, who basically said that we've agreed a 4.5 million fee, which I don't particularly believe, because he's, let's have a look.
I mean, I know he was the Preston Player of the Year last year, but I mean, coming from Everton to Preston, that's not really surprising. You'd expect him probably to be one of the best players in the Preston team.
I'd be disappointed if we waste $4.5 million on him. That'll be 25% of our budget gone. I don't think he's worth $4.5 million.
Nah, I'd probably say 2.5.
To be
Yeah, I
fair,
agree.
actually, I saw something in, I think it might have been the Telegraph. And the Telegraph, well, again, taken with a pinch of salt, but I think they are more reliable than a couple of other papers. I'd like to hope anyway. Apparently, they said that he was valued at 2 million, and he has a year left on his contract. So I'd be very surprised if we paid 4.5 million for him. I think we should be paying a bit less than that. Come on, Everton, we gave you Pickford, man. Give us McGeady for 2 million. Christ, we got you one of the best keepers you'll ever have. Well, apparently, last season's statistics there were 8 goals, 9 assists, cheap and plays on either wing. This is at Lou SAFC. So sorry, mate, if you're watching this and I've stole your tweet, but I just pretty much had to mention that. So I mean, would you two have McGeady?
I would definitely have McGeady. Yeah, I think he's good at that level. He'd be an addition.
Yeah, what Ben said, he'd probably be good at that level. I haven't really seen McGeady play in years. See when he played for Celtic, he was good at Celtic. Yeah, I mean, we need wingers, and obviously he looks like he can score goals and he can create goals. So why not? He'll be playing with better players as well. So yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's another signing. I haven't seen him enough to play to judge him, but based on his stats at Preston, they were probably an average club in the Championship. Yeah, it's not bad at all. So.
That's fair enough. Like you said before, and we've mentioned this again off air countless times, that he should have better players to. McGeady, if he did sign, would have better players to play around. He would probably have a bit more creativity, a bit more leeway. If he had the likes of Ndong next to him, who would run around, pretty much do the running for him in midfield, and then allow McGeady to sort of be the creative and creative spark, then I mean, Preston. Do you think maybe to an extent? Again, Preston fans, tell me if I'm wrong, or anyone who's watched Preston. He may have had to carry the Preston team almost to an extent, although obviously it would have the foundation of that team would have been built on hard work, which is what Grayson's a big advocate of.
But, I mean, we've been linked with a few Preston players. I know we've been linked with their striker as well, who scored 13 goals for Preston last season, which is, like I say, which is very actually that's quite good, isn't it? I mean, for a team that finished 11th, 13 goals isn't bad at all. And then I think we've been linked with their other winger as well, who's very good apparently. I don't know what his name is. He's quite one to watch out for.
Announce Preston fans meltdown.
But I mean, Grayson was quoted saying, I was reading in the Sunday Echo this morning. He's after all the hard work he's done there, he's already just taken the assistant from there. He doesn't want to take too much from there. Probably out of respect, probably.
That's nice to see for a change. Like,
to be honest, I don't want the Raiders Football Club either. I don't want them to get all the Preston players. I wouldn't mind 1 or 2 maybe, but I mean, I'd rather, if we're going to sign, I'd rather go for I don't know, like your Daryl Murphys, or I know we were linked with Tom Lees from Sheffield Wednesday at centre back. Not that I've seen him play, but apparently he's a good defender. Yeah.
No, no, sure. You've got me on that trend now, actually.
I think if we're going to sign, I want players from probably like your Sheffield Wednesdays, your Villas, your Leeds,
yeah.
And then maybe the
bottom
team.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe probably like the bottom 7 of the Premier League who aren't going to get into their team more than anything else, because then they should really do it in this division. But in saying that, there was the last thing I will mention quickly on play size, then we'll move on to the takeover talks. What do you two make about Phil Jagielka? Because I put a tweet out last night saying that we should go for Phil Jagielka, and the reason is because I can't remember if he has a year left on his contract or not, and I know he said at one point he'd probably stay. But given the fact that Everton are looking quite likely, at this time of recording, it looks quite likely Everton are going to get Michael Keane, and they have Ashley Williams there. Is Phil Jagielka really going to be within with a chance of getting in Everton's first team? And I know, and he's been linked with a move for Sheffield United. So Christ, come on.
Yeah, I would take him in the Championship, definitely. I think he'd be solid in that league. Obviously, might have a bit of the O'Shea's about him where he hasn't got the legs. I don't know how old he is. I mean, he must be in his early 30s.
56.
Well, he's making a very good career for himself then, isn't he?
If it's judging on the other Everton rejects we've had, I wouldn't take him. But I think Phil Jagielka has had a more successful career than your Darren Gibsons, etc.
Yeah.
So,
the difference is this time we don't have a manager who has a fantastic win ratio like he had at Everton, though. That's the point.
I think what Ben touched upon there is right. I think in the Championship, I think it would be a very good addition. And also when he said about like O'Shea and the pace, yeah, he would be similar to O'Shea. I think if we did get Jagielka, which I'd be all for, I wouldn't have him alongside O'Shea. I'd either have Jagielka with a young defender or O'Shea with a young defender. Do you know?
Yeah,
Because
well,
that could be a disaster.
yeah, I know. Well, preferably not Dillabodji. So, Thomas Callas, I've said from Chelsea, is the person I would go for because he's managed. I know I've got a love affair with Thomas Callas, like I do with half the players I talk about. But he was with the Borough team when they got second. I think I don't know how often he played. Like, to be fair, but he got second with Borough a couple of years ago when they got promoted, and he finished in the top 6 last year with Fulham. So who knows? But I mean, Jagielka's 34, by the way. I might as well point it out. I just went to have a look at it. So, but even then, like I said, he's one of those players that, again, in the Championship, he probably would do in the Championship. He would do well. Whereas, obviously in the Premier, well, you'd have to deal with the Premier League if you got to it. Okay, guys, so we'll move on from Grayson and potential signings. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, so maybe by the next podcast we'll have more to talk about in terms of players' outgoings or incomings or whatever. But anyway, so I want to mention the takeover talks. The takeover talks have obviously stalled. Martin Bain came out and pretty much said it in the press conference that him and Simon Grayson pretty much called, and it said that the club wasn't up for sale anymore. And apparently that the official version of the events is that Ellis Shaw didn't think that the talks were in the best interest of Sunderland going forward, and that we wanted to crack on with the new season. Now, whether that's because Ellis Shaw didn't get enough money, we don't know. But I'd like to hope that there's an element of truth in that, but it could just be that they're trying to bullshit their way through and just make it sound like Ellis Short still cares when in fact he still wants to sell the club. I don't know. We could be reading a lot into it. What do you two think about that?
I think Ellis Short's been very flippant in his statement. I'm guessing he didn't write that, but the fact that he's come out and said it's not in the best interest for the club to be sold. Well, is it in the best interest for him to stay? I mean, considering what he's kind of done last season with his penny pinching, yeah. So I'm quite annoyed at Ellis Short for that, I think.
Pete?
I'm 50-50 on it, actually. Yeah, what Ben said, I agree with to a point when he said about if it's if it's in the best interest of Sunderland Football Club, then yeah, good on him, because it shows that he cares. He doesn't want to leave us in a worse state than when he took over. Well, that's not going to be hard, obviously, but if the German group had came in and had worked and Short thought, no, I'm not selling Sunderland to them, then yeah, fair enough. But at the same time, like Ben said, he might be thinking about himself. He might be holding out and hoping we'll get back to the Premier League, because if we do get back to the Premier League, obviously the club's the club will be worth a hell of a lot more, and then he might sell that. Might sell them. So yeah, it's 6 and 2 3s really. He's probably thinking about his money, to be honest, and he's probably thinking, hopefully we get promoted to the Premier League, and hopefully I can sell the club for what I bought them for, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think apparently when they were in talks to try and get the German consortium to buy Sunderland, apparently there was, I can't remember where I read it somewhere, but I think it may be one of you that told me actually that apparently there was like an £85 million initial price to sell, but apparently that price gets bigger if we got promoted to the Premier League or something along those lines. I couldn't quite remember what it was. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sort of more on the lines with Pete on this one. I do think that if again, it's based on ifs and buts here because we don't. That's part of the problem. We don't know what's going on properly. But if Ellis Short is thinking about the money, then I do agree with what Ben's point is. Is it in the best interest of him to stay? Look, I was really against Ellis Short about a year or so ago, and I've sort of come to not like him, but I've come to soften a bit on him because I think you've got to bear in mind he can't throw money at the club so much because of financial fair play. James Hunter once said, apparently the guy journalist who works at the Chronicle, he apparently said that the financial fair play restrictions in the Championship are even more strict than the ones in the Premier League. So really, we can't throw money about. However, if it is true, maybe Ellis Shaw probably did look at the talks with the German consortium and eventually came to and thought it was going somewhere. Then came to the conclusion maybe they decided to outline what their plan and vision is for Sunderland, and then he decided, well, actually that's probably not worth it then. You got to remember as well, there was a deadline set as well. We had to go until the end of June, and if nothing happened by then, concrete, then we have to crack on for the new season, which good on them. If they're going to do it that way, then good on them for doing it, because we have to think about the Championship. We can't just, we can't have what happened last time, because last time we had the uncertainty with the manager, and although it's not the same issue as a takeover, it was still uncertainty around the club, and it pretty much was in there until about 2 weeks before the season started. We don't need that again. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to contradict myself here because yes, they probably have made the right decision from that aspect that the season is coming up and we need to focus on that now. But I don't like the fact that how can you be wanting to sell the club and then he comes out in a statement and says, "Oh, I'm fully committed to the season ahead." That can't change overnight, and that's my problem with Short. I think it's all lost words really. Regardless of the plausibility of the sale or not, it's obvious Short's lost the trust of the fans well and truly. And honestly, people probably don't believe a word that comes out of the club these days anyway. So I think it will be best for the connection of the fans to the club for Shaw just to stay quiet for this season now, to not release any statements and let Martin Bain do it.
I don't know anything either of them say at the minute. It's pretty much backlash by supporters, but we've already said, me and Pete said in the first episode, that we don't get the criticism that Martin Bain's getting because he's had a very difficult job in terms of restructuring everything. Regards to Short, what you said before, I can sort of see that to a point, but I just think that maybe the German consortium, the full Well 73 apparently was in talks, then pulled out, and the German consortium could very well have been the only club that was interested. Sorry, couldn't be the only club. Could have been the only group that were interested in buying something. We may not have had anybody else. The only problem I had with it was what was the point in going through all of that the last month if you weren't going to sell the club? You might as well have just not done it and then got McInnes, or could have persuaded Monk. Because for all we know, the issue might not have been money for why they didn't come, especially Monk. It could have been assurances. But either way, we can't do anything about it now, can we? We just got to get on with it and just say that Grayson's our manager. He's got to be backed. But I still want Short to sell the club, as much as I am lenient on him, and I do think he has been quite good for Sunderland, to be fair. I just think he has thrown money, but at the same time, Pete said this countless times off air, and I agree with it, his mistakes and his appointments are the reason that we're in this mess. And I would like to have thought he could have got himself more educated on football. As in, to know that Paolo Di Canio was a shit appointment from the start, that someone like Dick Advocat, in my opinion, we should never have got him. But what do you two? Do you two still? I think I know Ben's answer to this, but do you two still want Short to sell the club?
100% yes.
I wouldn't make wait. Well, there's no given, but if we ought to get promoted, then that would be better for us because we'll be able to sell it for more kind of thing, and hopefully more money would get pumped in if we did go up.
You'd be easier to sell if you're in the Premier League, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think you got to remember as well.
Sell a club on the up.
Possibly, but it's not just that. It's because it gives us a better chance of wiping the debt clear, though, doesn't it? So and you have much more, a bigger proposition to sell if you're debt free as opposed to debt ridden. So
at least he hasn't done a Mike Ashley and come out and said, "Oh, I'm not going until we win a trophy or qualify for Champions League spot," because Ellis would never leave if that's the case. So
to be fair, though, by that logic, Ashley should have left. They won the championship.
No, but class is not as a major trophy, is it? So
no, that's true. Mind you, we won't mention, obviously, try not to mention Newcastle too much, but obviously I'm surprised they haven't signed anyone yet. I'm pretty surprised they haven't signed anybody yet. The meltdown of Rafa Lep would be hilarious. But anyway, back on to Sunderland, though. We'll not mention Newcastle too much. Yeah, so we pretty much mentioned the takeover talk. Yeah, I still want Short to sell. I do still want Short to sell the club. I do think, again, he has acted in the best interest, but his mistakes have pretty much led Wood to get relegated eventually. So, we can't, like I said, right now, all we can do is get behind Grayson, and especially, to all sometimes get behind Martin Bain, and then try and go from there. But anyway, so the last main bit we'll talk about. We've mentioned Defoe. Do you two have any last quick thoughts on Defoe? I know we said wouldn't mention it. I'm not going to say anything, but do you two have any last quick thoughts on Defoe?
well, no, I should let him go for free. Should never have been in his contract, but obviously that's done now. I wish him the best of luck and hope he does well for Bournemouth, and I hope he carries on getting in the England team. No, every best wish to him. I hope he does well.
Yeah, I agree with Pete. I think he pretty much carried us through some of them seasons, and thanks a lot to him, and I hope he does well at Bournemouth.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the way Bournemouth play, they create a lot more chances than us, and I think that, if you're not guaranteed safety, but I think they're all but safe already, because I think Defoe will win them enough games on his own, and they'll create more chances for him to score. So, okay. But the one other player who has left, Fabio Borini. Now, this deal's an interesting one, because half the media, half the journalists and half like Sky Sports kept contradicting each other. Some kept saying we'll let him go for 5.3 million, then some kept saying it's a season-long loan. eventually, I think we'll come to the conclusion that it's a loan deal for the season, but with an obligation to buy. Now, I know Pete's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet about this one, so I'm going to let him start us off.
Well, like you said, Michael, I don't actually know what this deal is. I mean, there's been so many outlets saying, "Oh yeah, AC Milan have signed him for $5 million," and there's been so many saying it's on loan until the end of the season, and then they've got to buy him. I think it's that one. I think it is on loan. And in terms of they've got to pay $5 million at the end of it, I don't know if they do because apparently, like you say, they have to. But then I've also seen Keith Dowie saying it depends on how many games he plays. So I don't know if it's going to be kind of what we kind of had with Manquillo kind of thing. I think Sunderland needed the money now because obviously the debt they're in and the money we need to spend if we want to mount a promotion push. But I mean, Sunderland haven't exactly been the best in the transfer window the last few seasons, have they? So I'm not surprised. But
That's an understatement.
I just thought we needed the money now, basically. I don't see why. As you know, I don't mind getting rid of Borini at all, but I don't see why we've got rid of our one and only striker for free. Yeah, I know it's only free for a year if they sign him for $5 million, but we've now got no strikers on the books. I would either sold him for money or not let him go at all. So yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. Sorry, I know I'll let Ben talk in a minute. One thing I would mention is, obviously, I'm still the minority. I think Borini is a lot better than what he showed last year. But I've got into that. I think I've said that many times on social media, so I won't bore people with it again. But I just think, in that way, if you're gonna let Borini go for a season-long loan and then get the money at the end of the season, why not sell him now then? So I think that's what I can see where Pete's point is to that extent. The only thing I can make sense of it is that based on this season, we would have had last season's TV money, and I imagine a majority that'll go towards the debt. I'm thinking really outside the box here, but the plan might be just get Borini's wages off the books first, and if we get $5 million, that budget can go into next season. Because this season we are barely going to get any money in comparison to what we have got the previous few years. Because the previous few years we've obviously been in the Premier League, the money you get from being in that division, and while I would imagine we'd be on the TV in the Championship quite a fair bit, and we would still sell a few players, the income to this season will be poor. Only one team last season in the Championship made a profit, which was Wolves, because they got a new owner. Everybody else, even though Newcastle made something like 50 odd million or 55 million on player sales, in fact, nearly 70 if you include Townsend in that, still made a loss. So, I don't know. I highly doubt that's the reason, but I'm just trying to think outside the box here. Sorry, Ben, I'll let you talk because I did actually interrupt you because I was pretty sure you were about to say something.
I'm disappointed that they've let him go on a season-long loan, to be honest, when we do desperately need the money. I'm not bothered that he's gone because I think ultimately he's a player who just didn't want to be here. And I actually questioned whether he wanted to be here when he signed on again because, he rejected us to go and play for Liverpool after his first loan season here. So, was the motivation there to play for us? I think not. But yeah, it's probably another failure from a transfer point of view from whoever deals with this at the club. I mean, I don't want to criticise Martin Bain too much, because I'm a supporter of Martin Bain, but if he's been in charge of that deal, yeah, I think he's probably made a mistake in not pushing A.F.C. Milan to actually pay some upfront cash for him.
Yeah, that is why I would criticise it. I mean, again, I've already mentioned this to you two off there, countless times. But to me, the fact but if we do sell him, we're only going to get 5.3 million. I think is ridiculous. To be honest, I don't think that's it. I was going to say anywhere near enough. That sounds like he's worth a lot more than he is. I think around about 7 to 8 million would have been a fair price for him. And I'm basing that again off today's market. And if anyone goes on about you can't just keep saying it today's market, well, Sissoko went for 30. So if he went for 30, despite the fact he did nothing for Newcastle, and again, like Borini, he was relegated before he left, then I don't know.
But you've got to remember he had a great Euros, which probably added about 15 million to his price tag.
Is a good European? Sorry to interrupt. Is a good European tournament though enough to justify 30 million?
No, it's not. It's not. But obviously Newcastle would have probably milked every last penny out of that deal, and they've been known to do that before for Andy Carroll. Yeah. So
that's one thing I will give them. As much as I don't like Newcastle, I have to give them one thing. One thing they do is that they set a price on a player and say he's not going until the asking price is met. So I thought we could have done that a bit more with Borini, but it could have been again. But the counter argument could be that if Borini really didn't want to be here, which obviously by all accounts it looks like he didn't, then you might as well get that bad apple out of the dressing room straight away because then it would affect us later on. So
yeah, I agree with you with that, especially the wages, getting the wages off the books. Um, he's got to be one of our top earners. I've got no doubt that he is. So yeah, hopefully that will get fed back into, another player that comes in, or another two players maybe that comes in at this level.
well, I guess we'll have to wait and see about that one. I mean, I've got no doubt he will be one of the bigger earners, especially considering we spent a month pretty much masturbating over him when we tried to get him back from Liverpool, and he kept on saying no. But we obviously won't go into that as much. So I'd like to think again, and that's the advantage with Defoe going as well. Yeah, whatever my feelings about Defoe going for free, which aren't going to change by the way, but the wages going off the books certainly must be a positive reason enough to at least think that we'll have a chance of trying to assemble players, because wages are what's crippled us over the last few years. They're the things that have stopped us from really making moves in the transfer market. So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason we're not going for John Terry. I don't know. I will quickly mention, by the way, as of I think now this is Tony Zia, Tony Zia, the owner of Aston Villa, his official Twitter account. So I don't know if he's written this or someone's written it on his behalf, but he's put "Welcome GT to Birmingham City, Aston Villa, up the Villa. Announcement shortly." Is there anything in that?
Seems like a done deal if he's tweeting that.
Looks like it. That'll be a good signing for Villa, I think.
Yeah, it will be. I think experience in the Championship's key. And obviously, I think we've got that. Well, I think in O'Shea we've got that. O'Shea, obviously, I'm not comparing John O'Shea to John Terry. Jesus. But no, it's a good signing. It's a good signing for Villa. Yeah. Good signing for them.
Yeah.
I'd question all the baggage that comes with him. I think he carries a lot of negative connotations with him, I think. So I'm glad we've been nowhere near the guy, to be honest. So yeah, that's my feeling on John Terry.
I'm just looking to see if there's so yeah, it looks like John Terry. But well, fair enough then. But you got to remember, I mean, Villa have got haven't got as much money in terms of financial fair play either. So I think apparently someone said they got done for financial fair play last season. So I don't know. Last quick question I'll ask them before we can sort of wrap it up. Is there any? I don't know. Is there anyone that you're particularly worried about in the Championship, even in terms of the moves they're making in the transfer market, or in terms of trying to hinder our chances of getting promoted this year? Because there will be a good few teams up there.
No, there's no particular team I'm worried about in terms of the signings they're making. But I mean, generally, I think I'm not really worried about one particular team. But there's a lot, like you say, there's a lot of teams that will be up there. You know, like your Middlesbrough, Sheffield, Fulham, Leeds, whoever, I don't know, Norwich. There'll be a lot of teams that will be competing. There'll be a lot of teams we're competing with, but I wouldn't say there's one team just that stands out on their own in terms of the signings they're making. I don't think anyone's really signed anyone of note yet, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with Pete. I don't think anyone's really made a major move yet to sign anyone, which gives us a great opportunity to go and start that off and get people fearing us.
I mean,
fearing them.
I mean, maybe Villa have just there. Maybe Terry will be a massive signing of Villa, so maybe there's the first one. But apart from that, I don't think there's anything. I don't think any team have made a statement yet.
Well, like I said, I think Norwich have signed about 4 players, but I don't even know who any of them. I know they've signed, I think, Marley Watkins from Barnsley, but they got him, I think, on a free transfer after his contract expired or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I think we are in the opinion that I think we do need to start signing players, and I've got no doubt in my mind that I think I'd like to think once one signing comes in that we'll start to get a few of them. Final question: how many signings do you two think we need? Well, actually, no. Let me rephrase that. How many signings do you think we'll need, and how many do you think we'll get? And I'm going to say between now and the Derby County game, which is a month away.
Right. Well, I've already said we need 2 strikers, 2 wingers, 2 centre backs, a backup left back for Oviedo, he's always injured, and another keeper because I don't rate Mika Manoni wants to get injured. So I think at least 9. How many do I think we'll get before Derby? 6, probably. I'd say. Maybe 6.
I'd say, yeah, about 5 or 6 is how many I think I get. Ben?
Yeah, I think realistically we need 10. I think we'll probably get 5. Go by halves.
You never know.
Sunderland do things by halves, so.
You never know. Sunderland might sign McGeady permanently and then sign 9 free agents or something. Actually, is there anyone on the
free agent market? It has to be explode.
Well, it has to, doesn't it? And you got to remember we can use loans as well. So But I'd be interested to know, because in the Premier League, I think, can't you have like a loan cap or something? You can't sign more than 2 Premier League players at a time. So I'd be interested to see what that is if you're in the Championship. I'm guessing you've got a bit more leeway, because I think Huddersfield had a bunch of loan players on from the Premier League last year, I think. So you got to remember we've got the foreign loan market as well. But I would imagine, based on Simon Grayson, obviously that he's a Yorkshireman, he's English, and the model that the club's going on, we're probably going to be trying to target homegrown players or players who've played in this country and know this country well enough. Is there any free agents you would have that any stand out to you?
The only one I realistically have defence-wise would be Julian Lescott. No, I'm joking.
No, go on. I love Julian Lescott. Let's get him back. Hashtag bring back Lescott.
I can't really think of free agents from the Championship. I don't know who's available. I mean, there's a few in the Premier League I'd have.
There's a couple. Well, I mean, I'm not. There's a couple that I can think of who I'd have. John Terry, Charlie Adam, Fraser Campbell. 3 of them straight away who I would take. Phil Bardsley, yeah. I'd take.
Yeah, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Yeah.
You know, so I mean, some of them are due to do a job players, but you know, the Championships. Sometimes the Championship's full of do a job players, isn't it? So
I'd love to see Phil Bardsley come back. Love to see him come back.
You know, Ben, is there any free agents in particular you'd target?
Yeah, I'd like to see Fraser Campbell come back. I think he would be a good addition. Maybe Joe Ledley. He's
another one.
A strong Championship player. As much as I'd hate to see it, Vernon Anita, I think he's a decent player. As much as he's played for Newcastle, I thought he was all right.
Michael's annual FIFA signing there.
Yeah, every time I'm on FIFA, I always sign Vernon. He's a.
And there's a certain centre forward called Zlatan Ibrahimovic who's without a contract now. So.
Oh yeah, because he'll only demand about £300,000 a week, won't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone put for a laugh on Facebook actually that they said, if we can go for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Bakary Sagna, Willy Caballero, I know Pete doesn't reign, but Willy Caballero, Jesus Navas, who else was there? Ibrahimovic I've already said, and going for a bunch of other players, we should have the best club in the Championship. Might be an issue affording their wages though.
Yeah, I think we might actually get demoted.
Yeah, we probably will get a massive points deduction and a transfer embargo more than likely. But still, I mean, anyway, guys, look, that's it, guys. We'll probably wrap up the podcast there. Obviously, we said it's going to be nowhere near as long as the last one. Final thoughts on the situation at the minute then? Are you feeling more positive now for the new season? As positive as you can be.
It's a positive step forward. We've got a manager now. Everything he's said so far has been spot on. And it's just about getting them targets in now. But we know where we stand with the owner. The club's not for sale. It's just about getting them players in now. Hopefully, we'll see some movement this week, like I touched upon earlier.
Yeah, I'm feeling positive about it now, but we need to get some signings in quick, obviously. So we'll judge in the next week. Simon Grayson is going to keep to his promise of, getting the players in nice and quick. But let's see.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, mine. So we'll have to see. Well, yeah. Hopefully by the time we speak next week, we'll actually have something to talk about in terms of signings. Like I said before, there was pretty much no point in trying to get signings or the manager when the takeover talks were going on. So now we've got someone. You'd like to think that once one signing comes in through the door, more will come through. Anyway, I've waffled on enough. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this third episode of the podcast. Like I said, we still need to think of a name for it, so feel free to put in the comments below if you could have any suggestions. And we're going to try. I don't know what you two think. I might try to see if we can try and get some guests on at some point onto the podcast, but we shall see. Thanks, guys, for listening. See you next week, and hopefully we'll have signings by then.